at the end of the day, doing a PhD may not be worth it for some people, depending on what their career goals are. So I think identifying, why do I want to do this thing? I'm going to make this investment in my life. And you need to know, yes, is it worth it? And for some people it's not, and for some people it is.
This is UMBC Careers Unleashed, where we unleash stories, insights, and expertise to support you on your career journey. Let's dive in.
Hi, welcome back to UMBC Careers Unleashed. My name is Ella Reinders, and I am a senior biology major here at UMBC. And today I will be talking with my lab mentor, Dr. Tara LeGates. She is a professor here in the biology department. So I wanted to get started with a big career controversy that I feel like I've heard from a lot of people when I was looking at getting a PhD. And so a lot of people will say that PhDs might not be worth the long time commitment for the amount that you get paid or the family that you have to put off. So what would you say to that?
It's definitely, yes, that's definitely a hot topic when trying to decide whether this is the path for you. And what I would say is that it really depends on what your goals are, right? So for me, I was really interested in doing novel research. And so, yes, you have to accept that you're going to not make a lot of money going through grad school. And I tried to put it I tried to think about it differently. So yes, you don't get paid a lot of money, and that can be really difficult for people that, rely on money to live. They don't have extra support from family members or friends or whatever. But the way that I sort of framed it was that I was getting paid to continue my education and to get to do what I wanted to do. And so I sort of thought about it that way. And at the end of the day, doing a PhD may not be worth it for some people, depending on what their career goals are. So I think identifying, why do I want to do this thing? I'm going to make this investment in my life. And you need to know, yes, is it worth it? And for some people it's not, and for some people it is. As far as putting your life on hold, I also don't think, again, financially, it can be difficult and prohibitive to, for instance, have kids. Kids are expensive. But if we put that aside, I think there's not everyone has to say like, okay, I if I want this, I can't have these other things. It's more of a matter of what exactly, like, what can you make work?
Yeah.
I guess, for lack of a better way to explain it.
Yeah, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go back in time and get a sense of how you started your journey towards a PhD and what you wanted to be originally as a child.
Yeah. So that's a really great question. So I am the first thing to know about me is I'm a first generation college student.
Okay. Didn't know that.
And when I was getting ready to go to college, my mom was like, I don't care what you do, but you're going to college. That's the mandate.
Okay.
And I didn't really know, but two of my uncles were accountants, and I was like, well, that seems responsible. Like, that's a job and a major. So I'll just go to college and I'll become an accountant because, that's sort of how I was thinking about it, was you go to college, in preparation for a career. First semester of college, we were assigned our classes, and you're required to take a science class, even if you were an accounting major. And they had a non-majors neuroscience class, essentially. Wow. And I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting than the idea of accounting. And at the time, you had to like balance a checkbook, which you're not familiar with, but some of the older people listening might be familiar with. And I was like, this sounds way better than that. So I went to the professor who was teaching the class, and like I said, because my whole thing about going to college was like, I need to have a job in mind, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, what is it that you can do? Like, what job can you do with this major? And he's like, oh, anything, blah, blah. So I tried to talk to people, and then a lot of people gave me the advice of like, just go for it. Like, you'll figure it out. And so, yeah, so by the end of that semester, I had changed my major to biopsychology.
Was that in your first year?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it was in my first year. Yeah, so I changed it to biopsychology. It's now officially called behavioral neuroscience. So it sounds nicer. But yeah, and then from there, in the bio class, like the first bio class I was in, they were doing some program where they were selecting students. I don't remember how they found these students, but my name appeared on the board. And they were like, you know, if your name's on the board, you've been selected to participate in this independent research opportunity. And you looked through the labs and picked out what you thought was interesting. I actually looked at this genetics lab because I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But then when I actually talked to the professor, she's like, I don't think you're going to like this. And she took me to one of the other faculty and was like, here, you should deal with her.
Got it away.
Yeah, so then I did the rest of my undergraduate work with him.
Okay.
And it wasn't like that was like my dream as a child. I think as a child, I oscillated between wanting to be a teacher and wanting to be some sort of like medical professional. Like I was thinking about like a nurse or something. So it's kind of interesting that I wound up becoming a professor in biological sciences, doing research that is medically relevant, I would argue.
And teaching classes.
And teaching classes. So I kind of like actually merged it all together in the end. But anyway, yeah, so I went to college with the idea that I was going to be an accountant. And then kind of everything all kind of accidentally fell into place from there.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So how did you know when you wanted to get a PhD? Like, did you decide that in your undergrad years?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about a lot of different options. So when I decided that I was going to change my major to, it was called biopsychology at the time. Now the major is called behavioral neuroscience, where I went to college. And when I was going to change my major, the first question that I had was, what kind of jobs do you get? Because I didn't know. I didn't personally know any scientists. I didn't know personally any doctors. You know, I knew my doctor that I went to. Sure. And so the professor that I talked to was not helpful. He was like, oh, you could be anything you want. And I accidentally got involved in research. Like I was sort of selected for a research opportunity, and I found that really interesting. But I tried little things. Like I really enjoyed research, but I did a hospital internship because I thought, you know, let me look and see what medicine looks like. And I decided that was not for me.
And how did you know that wasn't for you? Because I know a lot of people come, especially into UMBC, with a pre-med agenda, and a lot of them leave without it. Mm-hmm. So how did you know that wasn't for you?
Yeah, because it was gross.
And
good reason. It freaked me out. Yeah, so I think what freaked me out the most. So we got to do sort of these little rotations. I think the whole internship was about 2 weeks long. Mm-hmm. And we got to do these rotations through different specialties. And the thing that bothered me the most was seeing people in pain and having to deal with that. And it really made me uncomfortable. And then I also realized, like, I don't like broken bones, and especially if it's like fingers and toes, like, it really it grosses me out. I can't handle it. So I was like, okay, this isn't for me. This is too gross.
It's good to know about yourself.
Yeah, it's good to know. Yeah, but what I really realized in doing the research that I was doing as an undergrad was that I was really drawn to this. What I would call a privilege now of my job is that I get to come up with questions. Yeah. Of things that I'm interested in, and then I get to go try to figure out the answer. Yeah. And that was what I think like really got me off the bat. And so initially the way that I thought I might go about it was maybe I'll get an MD PhD and I'll do some clinical work and stuff like that. But then when I did the hospital internship, I was like, no thanks, I'll just stick with the PhD part.
The pass for me. Okay. So how did you like decide which grad school was for you? Because that's a big aspect.
Right. Yeah. So at the time, I don't know if this still exists, but at the time there was this actual database of graduate schools. And I don't remember if it was specific to neuroscience or whether you could pick a discipline.
Okay.
I have very vague memories of this, but not very helpful. And so I remember sort of going through that database to try to see what was available. Because the other thing to know is where I went to college didn't have a graduate program.
Okay.
It was pretty a small, like, liberal arts business school. And so I was going through that. I knew that I wanted to be part of a neuroscience program. I was drawn to neuroscience very early on, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I applied to various neuroscience programs, and I got some help from my research advisor. I actually applied to the program where he got his PhD from. But I say that all to say that I actually did not go to a neuroscience program, and the program that I went to was not one I planned on applying to.
Okay.
I had gone to a conference to present some of the work that I had been doing in my undergraduate lab.
Yeah.
And I met the person who would actually become my PhD advisor at that conference. And when I talked to him, he was like, you should apply to the program that I'm based in, which was actually a biology program. So had I not met him, I never would have entertained the idea of applying there. Yeah. And also because of the school, I would not have entertained applying there because I wouldn't have thought I was going to get in.
What school was it?
Hopkins.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
So I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll apply to Hopkins, right?
Yeah, I have experienced that feeling a lot. And then when in your schooling did you know that you wanted to like pursue academia? Because there are a lot of things that you can do with your PhD. And so sometimes it can be really daunting that academia often requires like a postdoc or extra research training after graduate school. So how did you know that that was where you wanted to keep extending?
I think in graduate school, it seems for a lot of people, it seems sort of like this natural progression, and you're around faculty all the time. And a lot of faculty sort of see that as like, this is what you should be doing. And depending on your program, there isn't always as much emphasis on other careers. So we had, I think, what was called the alternative careers workshop or something like that, and other people that had gone on, from our that were part of our program but had gone on to do other things would come back and sort of talk about it. So I think for a lot of people it kind of feels like this natural progression. I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I feel like I kind of would look at different things, but I was almost like I was like riding this wave, and I was like, oh, if I find something, but I didn't really look that hard. I was like, okay, well, I'll go do a postdoc and then I'll see what I think about it.
Okay.
And then I thought about some other careers for a postdoc, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll go on the job market and then I'll see how I feel about it. So it's always sort of been like an idea in my brain that I never really pursued.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's just kind of going with the flow of where your career takes you. You don't have to...
Well, yeah, and I think honestly, the reason that I stayed in it and the reason that I applied to UMBC is because my undergraduate experience was what shaped my decision to pursue this in the first place. So I think that was really like an internal motivation and a reason when the posting came up from UMBC, I thought, well, the whole reason that I'm here and the reason I'm doing this is because of the research experience I had as an undergrad. Yeah. And I was really drawn to the idea of being able to give that back in a way and try to spark that drive and that interest in other students. And, one of the things that in addition to doing research, one of the things that I really love is when you can actually see that spark in a student. Yeah. And so I say that, I sort of looked at all these other jobs, but at the end of the day, that was something that it's still something that I find like very motivating.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely sparked it in me.
Good.
Yay. But going back to graduate school, so I know you picked your advisor based on maybe even meeting that person at a conference, but how did you know that was the advisor for you? And maybe you didn't change labs, but have you seen other people change labs? And how do you know if a fit with an advisor is right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is a really good question. And I can tell you sort of from my perspective of sort of what I prioritized, I would say. So like I said, I applied and went to the program that I went to because of this interaction that I had with the person who became my PhD advisor. But I kept a very open mind because one of my rules when I was deciding on where I was applying was I would not apply to programs if there weren't several people that I thought I would be interested in working with, because you never know what's going to happen.
It's really important.
And so, but at the end of the day, I did rotate in his lab, and I was working on a project that I thought was super, super interesting. It was a bit of a very intense environment.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I knew that the science that the lab was doing was really interesting and very novel. And so the opportunity to be able to do that kind of science was what drew me in.
Okay. Yeah.
And what I found to sort of be the priority. And so I could deal with certain things and handle that intense environment because of what I knew the outcome could be.
Okay.
Right. So in my mind, it was a big payoff.
Okay.
But I think to your actual heart of your question is knowing that mentor-mentee match, and being able to find that mentor-mentee match, because all mentors are different. Some of them are very hands-on, some of them are very hands-off. There's all sorts of different things, and the rotations wind up being a really good way to kind of figure out how the mentor and the lab operates. And I think what I always tell students is, like, you need to pay very close attention to what your experience is, because it's going to be more of that forever. And so you have to know, like, okay, does this work for me? Or, so if it is someone who is very hands-on, do I want that kind of hands-on mentorship, or do I want someone who's kind of going to, like, leave me alone, right? You got to know what the fit is for you, and it's helpful to know that early on. As far as, what happens if you realize that it's not a good fit. I would say I would say start by trying to communicate. And I do think that there's a push in several places, not just here. There's a push to make sure that those lines of communication are very open and sort of expectations are very clearly defined. And I think if they're not, trying to get them to be defined and making sure the communication is open, because, with interactions, we often don't, there are things that we don't realize maybe that we're communicating, or we don't realize what the interpretations are. And so being able to have kind of like a healthy dialogue, I think, is important.
Okay.
Graduate programs always have program directors. And so you can go to them. I did actually. I went to my graduate program director when I was a student. I've gone as a faculty member to get advice as far as mentoring my own students. So they're a good resource to try to sort things out. But like you said, at the end of the day, sometimes people have to wind up switching labs. So I think it's sort of figuring out, okay, this is really not going to work. But I would say making sure that you do all of the work and the communicating that you can before you come to that decision, so you don't, burn a bridge that could have been, mended with a conversation.
I want to know what it's like as a PI with building those relationships with your mentees, as you talked about. Like, what's the most rewarding part of it for you, and how do you think that's changed, like, over the years, or your role has changed? And for those who don't know, a PI is a principal investigator of a lab, so like the professor in charge.
I I've tried from the beginning to be to try to meet students where they are and try to understand, okay, this student might need a more hands-on approach, and this student is, can be more independent. I've tried that from early on, and I think that I have just developed, hopefully, better ways to actually accomplish that. I try to keep an open dialogue with my students, and and what I think actually is that I try to be very clear, and what I have tried to work on is being very clear about my expectations. And then knowing that each person is different, sort of stating like, this is still what the expectation is, but let's figure out how it is that you're going to meet that expectation, right? So not trying to force them to meet the expectation in the way that I would do it. Right. But still making sure that the expectation is very clear, but their route to getting there might be a little bit different.
Yeah. It definitely can be hard in a lab where the science and the procedures and...
Well, and everyone's just so different, right? So everyone approaches things differently. They organize themselves and their time differently. And just like I tell mentees, like, you're not going to change a PI. So that's why I think like finding that mentor-mentee match is important, because at the end of the day, like, you're not going to change a micromanager into someone that's going to let you be completely independent. Like, that's just not going to happen. You can have conversations and try to like come up with some compromises, but you're not going to fundamentally change that person. And the same is true for mentees. And there's a lot more of you guys than there are of me. And so it's, I have to sort of shift. Sort of shift those things so that I can appropriately mentor each person.
It's a push and pull.
Exactly,
You got to work with each other's strengths. Okay. What do you think is like the most rewarding part of being a PI?
Oh, I mean, I think, like I was saying before, I think it's seeing that spark. And seeing someone get something. So especially if it's something that they've been struggling with, like a concept or a technique, and then it all falls into place, like, that's the absolute best thing in my mind. Like, it's better than me doing an experiment and getting good data. It's so much better, like, if you guys are working hard and then all of a sudden it like all comes through, right? Or it all clicks into place. Okay. I would say that's definitely the most rewarding thing. And like seeing you all succeed. So seeing you give presentations, seeing your names on the, on the papers. On the papers. All of that is super, super rewarding.
What do you think are the more like demanding aspects of the job that maybe at times make you want to pull away?
Well, as you know, science is hard. A lot of things fail. And it can be discouraging, right? And so trying to sort of keep everyone from not feeling so discouraged and trying to remind everyone, and not just remind everyone, but really convince them like, this is normal. This is what it is. But sort of like seeing students get, or trainees, I should say. Get discouraged. And then I think the demanding, the other demanding thing, and this is not meant to be like in a bad way, but again is, having different people in the lab, it's sort of a lot to be sort of shifting. Having to shift of like, okay, this person is coming to my office and, they need a hands-on approach, and, making sure that I'm mentoring each person to the best of my abilities for what they need is demanding. And then the science of it all is demanding.
It's a lot. I was wondering if you've felt like there was anything in your career path that you wish you'd like known at the time or could have done differently.
There's so many things. I feel like anytime I get to a point, I'm like, I wish I would have known that sooner. Or I wish I would have done that sooner. as a first generation college student, you don't know that there's a hidden curriculum associated with science and academia. So I didn't know all of this, the extra things that you have to do. One of the big ones that I do not think is specific to academia or science is networking. People need to know who you are. It's a big factor in getting hired for jobs, in, you know, I think just people's perception of you, and things like that. So it's really important to sort of make sure that you're getting out there. I'm not particularly comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with talking to people that I don't know. But it is super important to sort of just get over it. And do it, because it fosters collaborations. Like I said, it fosters sort of, you know, getting hired if you're looking for a job, and all of those things. And then the other thing is, and maybe it's related, is that you need to be able to sell yourself. And not feel bad about it. So I find that it's another thing that I struggle with, is sort of talking. It feels like bragging, right? But when you are, for instance, like writing a grant or writing a paper, you're selling an idea, right? And you're backing it with data, right? But at the end of the day, someone is reading something, and so you can't just show them data. You have to actually convince them with your words. And so, and the same is true, you know, when you're looking for a job, for instance, you need to sell yourself. And so it can be awkward to be like, well, I am the best at this thing, and this is why you need to give me this job, or this is why you need to give me this salary, and why I'm worth more than what you want to give me. Right. And so I think, like, being able to knowing that you need to do that and being able to do that is another big one.
That's really, really, really valuable.
I think something that applies to no matter what your career is having a network. You need to know people. And especially, like, with how the job market is now, like, you have to know people. So you have to put yourself out there. I really don't like it. I get very uncomfortable talking to people that I don't know. I know, it's very surprising.
You come off so confident.
But yeah, so I'm very uncomfortable with doing that. And it's something that I actually have to do right now. So I'm up for tenure next year. And people in my field that don't necessarily know me, they need to know who I am, because I need to get letters from people, and they have to recommend me so I can keep my job. So it's like something that I have to face all of the time. So I think it's super, super important. Like, people need to know who you are. And not like you need to be famous, right? But you need to, like, have interactions with people. There was something else I thought of while I was talking, and then it promptly went right out of my brain.
That's okay. Well, how would you recommend, like, what are your best ways to grow your network that you've experienced? So I think, so a lot of times your mentor is really good at that. So my PhD advisor was a big one. Like, you need to meet this person, like, and constantly introducing people. So I think mentors are a great way to sort of expand your network. And then sometimes you just have to go up and just introduce yourself or email people. So, you know, I've sent emails to people. For instance, when I was looking for my postdoc, I emailed people and said, I'm going to be at this conference. Without sounding like a stalker, I know you are too. I've done that.
Do you have time to sit and talk? And I set up, you know, you just set up meetings with people. And it's important it's important for me to do now, not just in this whole idea of, like, continuing to get promoted, but, like, you can't do science on your own. So it's helpful to have collaboration. So being able to reach out and say, you know, hey, I know that I heard you're working on this. Just being able to, like, you know, talk science with people helps you sort of move your stuff forward, or like form, you know, good collaborations. It's really important for finding the next aspect of your job.
What's something or maybe not something, but what would you do in scenarios where you get, like, really stuck? Maybe, like, in the job that you're in or the project that you're working on. Like, is it like a mindset shift that you think helps, or are there, like, particular things that you feel like you can do?
So when you say get stuck, do you mean like experiments aren't working and you're stuck?
It could be like experiments aren't working, or like you're just feeling like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the first thing, right, is can be discouraging.
Yeah.
And so I think the first important thing is separating the emotion out of it, right? Because and this is probably not exclusive to science or academia, but it's your whole life. Like this is a key part of my identity.
Yeah.
And so if it's not working and you're stuck, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not good.
Yeah.
And like, you're right, all this like imposter syndrome, cognitive distortion stuff start happening. And so you need to take kind of like the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, as far as like how to actually get out of the rut, is to, in ways, might be to separate yourself from it. So you might say, okay, like I'm stuck on this, I'm going to go work on this other thing.
Okay.
Or you might just take some time to sort of step back and say like, okay, let me look at this from a different perspective. And then I think another way that some people may not use enough because you don't want to admit defeat to other people, but is to get input from someone else, because they're going to look at it from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
So you can say like, okay, this isn't working. Can you look at it and let me know? And you have to sort of give up that fear of how, that they may look down upon you, because really in all likelihood, they're not. That's just all in your head. But I think that's another way of like just getting someone's help. And that's where having the network too is good.
Yeah. What do you see as a thing that like a lot of students maybe that you work with in your lab or you've seen in your classes struggle with in terms of like maybe progressing in science or just like being a scientist?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's resiliency. And it's tough. Because classes, right, can be hard. Science is hard, experiments fail. And especially when you are newer to it, you're not used to like it. When we're talking about like experiments failing, you're not used to that happening all the time, right?
Yeah.
You're used to, you go to class and you study and you do well on a test, right?
Yeah.
But in the lab, you could do all of the things right and it still doesn't work. And you're like, I don't know what's happening, right? And I think, and that can be, it's discouraging, right?
Yeah.
And so I see students time and time again, they're like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough at this. Like, this is not working. It's like, and they think that they're the problem. And so they sort of treat it as like a failure of like, I'm not going to do this. And they, even if they're not in practice throwing in the towel, mentally they're throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
And I think being able to overcome that is absolutely necessary. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah.
And then there's like a lot going on in the world, right? So it's just like all of the things are happening.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
So how do you like in graduate school or even now after you've had a really hard week or something's really stressing you out, how do you unwind? How do you like let it go so that you can move on and be resilient?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what the thing is. So I have an angry songs playlist.
Okay.
That I play really loud in my car on the way home. So sometimes it's screaming along to that.
Okay.
I have recently gotten into, and this is gotten slightly, this isn't like I'm like a bodybuilder, but I like weightlifting.
Okay. Yeah.
And I find it sort of like reduces some of my nervous energy. And so if I'm like getting myself worked up, I'll lift weights. I'm like, oh, I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
So that. And then also I have 3 kids. So going home and hugging my kids and remembering sort of like the bigger picture of what's important.
Yeah.
Those are, I think, my top 3 things.
Okay. So how was it starting like a family while you were going through all these big like career movements?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tough. The saying that, everyone says is that there's never a right time.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's not unique to academia. One of my very good friends is in finance, and she and I have very similar things. I think I have a the privilege of my job can be pretty flexible, more flexible oftentimes than hers can. So that's pretty nice. But anyway, to answer your actual question, it's a lot. I spread my kids out. So I had one kid in grad school, I had one kid as a postdoc, and I had one kid here.
Wow, all the experiences.
Yes. So I don't know if that's like a strategy, but that's how I did it. I also had them. Well, the first two I had towards the end. So I had my first towards the end of graduate school, and I had my middle child towards the end of my postdoc.
Okay.
And that's really helpful because you sort of are. You know what you're doing and like things are kind of running, so you don't have the stress of like I have to learn all this new stuff and I have this tiny child that I have to learn how to figure out how it works.
Yeah. It's a lot on top of each other.
Yeah. So and then I have an amazing husband, so that's also helpful. We're a team. So it helps us try to balance out the work chaos and the family chaos.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people I feel like will be like, well, your life is on pause while you're in graduate school and you're doing all these things, and it's not true.
No, it's definitely not on pause. It's definitely trickier. And the thing that I learned, and my big transition from going from not having kids to having kids is being a lot more efficient and purposeful with my time. So before I had any kids, I could be in the lab as long as I wanted. So I could like hang out with my other friends and I could, go get coffee and lunch and whatever. And like, it didn't matter that I got home at 10 o'clock at night. But I can't do that with kids. So it's, when I'm at work, I'm working. And I was like, everyone get out of my way. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I gotta get this stuff done. I gotta go. So I think like making sure that you're organizing your time. And then I think the other thing that took a lot of stress out, and this took me a while to learn, and this is not my idea, I heard this from someone else, is that you can't look at work-life balance as an everyday 50-50. Sometimes I am the mom and I'm doing all of the mom things. And then other times I'm the PI and I'm doing all the PI things. And if you try to fit that 50-50 as like every day is that I have this work-life balance, I think that's what is stressful. And that's what doesn't work. I think you have to look at it from like a year picture. Right. Right. Because, stuff happens. Like my daughter, as you know, at the end of September, broke her collarbone. I had to leave. I had to take her to the hospital. I had to stay home with her. I had to take her to the surgeon. She didn't need surgery. But, right. So like I had to step up and be the mom. But there are other times where like I had a grant deadline, a paper deadline, and a student defending all at the same time. So I'm like, mommy needs to write these things.
I have to lock in right now.
So
Okay. I think just to wrap up, maybe like what's one piece of advice you'd give to students who are pursuing like a career, like a PhD or graduate school?
I think my piece of advice is to remember to sort of step back and look at the big picture. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you have to be able to last. And I think related to that, the advice that I got that really stuck with me is science and academia is like a fast moving train. And sometimes all you can do is hang on. But you have to hang on because if you don't, the train's going to leave without you. And so sometimes you may have to step back for a day and like sort of reevaluate things, but you can't just give up because, science is still moving. People are still doing experiments. And, if you want to move your stuff forward, you need to at least like hang on. While you regroup.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. And
I've
had a great experience as your mentee these past 4 years.
It would be awkward if you were like, oh, I didn't
like any of it. I'm actually quitting after this. No, thank you so much for talking to us today. I've learned a lot.
Thanks for having me.